Member Bourbeau to lead us in a pledge to the flag.
Please stand and join me if you can. Saluting our nation's flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag. of the United States of America. To the republic. One nation. Indivisible. with liberty.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bourbeau,
Here.
Councilmember Daris,
Here.
Councilmember Newsom,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Here.
Mayor Moreno,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Well, all of you here attending in person, we welcome you tonight. And if you are listening on the radio, watching on YouTube, you are in the Zoom webinar, or any of the myriad of ways that you can join us this evening, we welcome you. If you are watching on TV or listening on the radio and you'd like to call in by phone because you're not on Zoom or you're not here in person, I'm going to go ahead and give you the phone number to do that. But also know that if you go to atascadero.org and you go to the city council agenda, this information is on the very front page. So if you want to call in during public comment on any of the items that are on our agenda or during community forum, you can do so by calling 669-900-6833. Once again, that phone number is 669-900-6833. And when you call in, you'll use the following meeting ID, 889-2347-9018. Again, that meeting ID is 889-2347-9018. Before we move on, I believe our city clerk has a couple of clarifying comments about items on the agenda. Ms. Christensen.
Thank you, Mayor Moreno. I just wanted to point out on the agenda that was posted for item B5, the recommendation actually references, this is for the annual assessment for the Atascadero Tourism Business Improvement District. And unfortunately, that recommendation was a carryover from B4. So the recommendation actually says the business and parking improvement, but it should have said the Atascadero business improvement, and it is correct in the agenda packet with the staff report. And then also on item C1 in the fiscal impact, it says fiscal year 24-24, and that's actually 24-25. And then on recommendation number 5, it says the action plan 2021 to 2023, and that's actually 2023 to 2025. But again, all of that information is correct in the staff reports and in the information there. And as we do the presentations, those recommendations will be correct on your presentations. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying those minor corrections. All right, I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda.
I'll second. We have a motion by Councilmember Bourbeau and a second by Councilmember Newsom. We will waive the reading in full of all ordinances appearing on this agenda, and the title of the ordinances will be read aloud by the city clerk at the first reading after the motion and before the city council votes. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bourbeau,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Daris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Yes.
Mayor Moreno.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes.
All right, so we are on to our presentation. We have our one presentation this evening is a proclamation recognizing LGBTQ plus citizens of Atascadero, and receiving this proclamation will be Community Church of Atascadero, Pastor Heather Branton. Thank you, Heather. And if you want to stand there, we all have Mayor Pro Tem Funk is going to read the proclamation. And then and I'll let you all kind of know how this works, because I think some of you, this might be your first time to a council meeting or speaking at a council meeting. When we do proclamations, we have someone receive the proclamation, and then they will typically speak. And I know Pastor Branton is going to have a few pastors simply introduce themselves so that we know they're here and we know they're supporting. But Pastor Branton will be the only speaker. If any of you are wanting to speak about this proclamation, or any issues related to it, you are more than welcome to during community forum, which we will be opening up shortly. So I just wanted to let you know logistically, if you were expecting to speak on this tonight, we don't have speakers for proclamations, but community forum is open to you. So with that, I will hand this over to Mayor Pro Tem Funk.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. And I believe there are a couple of other faith leaders in the hall that we're going to move over. Maggie, if you wanted to join the others over there. So tonight we have a proclamation recognizing LGBTQ plus citizens of Atascadero. Whereas America was founded on the principle of equal rights for all people, but the fulfillment of this promise has been long in coming for many Americans. And whereas our nation's constitution was established with the purpose to form a more perfect union, foreseeing the need for continuing improvement in delivering on our nation's founding promises. And whereas the city of Atascadero's mission is working together to serve, build community, and enhance quality of life, a mission that applies equally to all persons in the community without prejudice. And whereas, consistent with the Atascadero Chamber of Commerce's DEI pledge, the city of Atascadero is committed to acting as a leader responsible for ensuring that there are no barriers based on economic position, gender, race, creed, age, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, disability, or any other characteristic. And whereas in the movement toward equal rights for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer questioning persons, an historic turning point occurred on June 28, 1969 in New York City with the onset of the Stonewall Uprising, during which LGBTQ plus citizens challenged discriminatory laws that have since been declared unconstitutional. And whereas June is celebrated as Pride Month in communities throughout San Luis Obispo County in various ways, in recognition of LGBTQ plus persons having equal rights under law. And whereas all members of the Atascadero community have the right to live peacefully, enjoy all the community has to offer, raise their family, and seek economic and academic opportunities free of discrimination and bigotry of any kind. And whereas a strong, healthy, sustainable community includes and embraces people of every color, race, ethnicity, creed, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the City Council of the City of Atascadero, in recognition during Pride Month of the co-equal humanity of our LGBTQ plus community members, do hereby urge all residents to honor our widely varied community and work together with us to build a culture of tolerance and mutual respect. It is signed by Heather Moreno on behalf of the council.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Funk. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Pastor Branton for if she'd like to make a few, have a comment or two, have a few words for us.
Got a few words.
You're very good at this.
My name is Heather Branton. I am a resident of Atascadero. I am a Christian minister, extraordinarily blessed to be the pastor of Community Church of Atascadero, United Church of Christ, and I am openly gay. I consider myself to be incredibly fortunate. I look around here in City Hall and I see many friends. We may have different perspectives and life experiences, but we are able to also see the places where we connect, our mutual values. I presume that some of you don't know what to do with my being gay and being a Christian minister, and yet you have expressed openness and warmth with an affection that comes from our mutual willingness to create space to learn about and from each other, to listen to each other, and to respect each other, even when our frame of reference is different. My voice is my own. My experience is unique. I recognize that there are other individuals who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, individuals who are transgender or gender non-binary, who do not have the same welcome or openness. It is rather humbling to be here this evening, to be joined by this group of individuals who come from a variety of faith traditions. We have different backgrounds, different beliefs. And yet here we are together, present to receive this proclamation. But it is an odd thing to receive such a proclamation. In reality, a proclamation is something that we have the opportunity and commitment to live into. It is dreaming of and imagining and working toward a future that isn't yet. In a way, it is covenanting together to value each other as human beings, to work together to build a culture of tolerance and mutual respect. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Atascadero City Council, for your commitment to do this work together with all of us to elevate dignity and respect within our community. I have some pride flags to share with you. And while I do so, I'd like to invite those who are with me to introduce themselves and the faith community that they're from.
My name is Maggie Furtsnyder. I'm a member of the United Methodist Church of Atascadero. My minister, Reverend Michelle Park, wanted very, very much to be here tonight, but she had another commitment that she couldn't change. So I told her I was coming and she asked me to represent her. She and I and many people within our congregation do support this proclamation.
My name is Vicki Vanden Eyck, and I'm from the Atascadero Ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
My name is Bill Alexander. I am president of the Board of Trustees for Congregation Ortsaphone here in Atascadero, and I'm here to stand in solidarity with our LGBTQ plus community.
Thank you, Bill. Heather, I think I'm gonna, what you said, covenanting together to value each other as human beings. I love that. Thank you. And would you like to take a, would you like to take a picture? And if everyone from the congregation wants to come up or just you, Heather, however you want to do it. Okay, next we are moving on to our consent calendar. Our consent calendar contains items that are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff and can be approved in one motion unless there's a member of the public or a member of council wishing to pull an item for further discussion. So I will look to my colleagues to see if there's anyone wishing to pull an item. Not seeing anyone in the public. So if you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand with the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen, or if you're here in person, anybody wishing to pull a consent calendar item. All right, I'm not seeing any, so I will ask for a motion.
Mayor,
Oh, okay.
I'd like to pull A3.
A3. All right. I will pull A3 and I'll ask for a motion for 1, 2, 4, and 5.
I'll move approval of items A1, 2, 4, and 5.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Borbo, a second by Councilmember Dares. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borbo,
Yes.
Councilmember Dares,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom, Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Yes.
Mayor Moreno.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes.
Great. All right. And number 3, please come on forward.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Chavez. I work in the finance department here for the city. I wanted to take the time to thank Mayor Moreno, council members, and city manager Rickard for presenting this item here tonight. This item is very important to all of us, and I want to thank you for considering the compensation plan for city staff. I want to also thank you for recognizing that city staff works hard every day, and we really appreciate you taking the time to consider this. In finance, we try very hard to be good stewards of the public funds. So we are really appreciative of your consideration of the COLA, the cost of living adjustment. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Other members wishing to speak. Hello.
If may, please. Good evening. My name is Dawn Patterson, and I work for the city of Atascadero, also in the finance department. My family and I would like to thank the council for their consideration of the city staff cost of living increase. It's very encouraging to be recognized for our commitment and dedication to our community. I'm proud to be part of a team that loves Atascadero and strives every day to improve the services for our city. I am truly grateful for the way our city council supports staff. Individually and as a group, you have protected our city and made it better. My heartfelt thank you.
Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Jessica. I work for the Community Development Department. I've been a city employee for about 5 years now, and I just came to say thank you. Thank you for being considerate of your staff. It is an honor to work for the city. I couldn't imagine working anywhere else. The culture here and the people are just wonderful. So other coworkers of mine couldn't make it tonight, but they asked me to also convey their gratitude and appreciation.
Thank you. I'm going to say we need to take Jessica's statement and put that on a recruitment flyer for anytime we're looking for anybody to work for the city.
Good evening, council. Zach Jackson, president of the Atascadero Professional Firefighters. On behalf of my brothers and sister, I'd like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to all the council members for your invaluable support and dedication to our local fire department. Your commitment to ensuring the safety and well-being of the community is commemorable. Although unwavering advocacy, you have secured crucial resources, funding, and support for our firefighters, enabling us to effectively carry out our life-saving duties. Your recognition of the vital role played by our fire department and your continuous efforts to enhance its capabilities have had a profound impact to the overall safety of our community. We are incredibly fortunate to have such a dedicated public servants who prioritize the welfare of our firefighters and the protection of our residents. Thank you to all the council members and the city staff for your unwavering support of our fire department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ron Overacker. I'm the former president of the Atascadero Police Association and current treasurer. And on behalf of the men and women of the Atascadero Police Association, I want to thank you for this mid-contract pay raise for our law enforcement team. The commitment of council to work outside and above our contract shows you value our team members and our contribution to the community. Not just Atascadero, but all of the law enforcement profession is facing huge challenges in recruiting and retaining qualified personnel. And despite those challenges, here in the city of Atascadero, we've expanded our staffing of patrol teams from 4 to 5 officers for the first time since the city was founded in 1980. We also have a community action team and outreach for underrepresented members of our community dedicated to providing resources to vulnerable members of our society. Our association is growing in numbers because people want to work here and serve this community. And we couldn't do that without the commitment of council to prioritize retaining personnel through competitive wages. I'd like to acknowledge that council had no obligation to offer anything above the agreed contract. But when seeing a surplus, you chose to reinvest in our personnel. This speaks volumes to the value each of you place on public safety. And while this pay raise applies to the other non-public safety positions in the city, we all benefit from having experienced quality city personnel to maintain our streets, to make sure our computers work, to pay the bills, to turn on the lights, keep the finances straight, and attract businesses to our city. Our community deserves the best public safety professionals to help them through their worst days. And this side letter will help keep our wage competitive so we don't lose our best assets to other agencies. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other, oh, come on forward here.
Jeff Oslin, resident business owner, and also on the oversight committee for our finances. I also would like to thank our council and our city staff, and especially the citizens of Atascadero, because without D20, we would not have been able to stop the bleeding of both police, fire, and the staff of the city of Atascadero. And I can tell you firsthand, as one that just went through the permit process, that I think the hardest working person downstairs is actually Jessica, and a wealth of information. And if that keeps her here and we don't have bleeding and she doesn't go to another city, we've done our job. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members in the public wishing to comment, and please come forward. If there's anyone else, go ahead and come on forward and kind of line up a little bit. That would be great. And if there's anyone on the webinar, I'm not seeing any hands raised, but you can go ahead and raise your hand if this is item A3 on consent, if you'd like to speak to it. Oh, Diane, are you here to speak on A3?
No.
Okay,
this
this
just
is for
A3?
A3. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, let me be specific. If you want to speak any further on the item A3 on the consent calendar. I'm not seeing any, I will say after, this is my 11th year serving on the city council, and I have seen from day one how dedicated and committed of a staff we have. The way we get things done in this city is by all of the people that you saw come up here and the others they work with and alongside. I am so, we are all so grateful for you, and to be in this position. And Mr. Oslin, you said it correctly, for all of you voters to trust us, to trust our community, to see what the needs were, and to pass D20 and to make this possible. Because while we have a great work environment, as Jessica said, you wouldn't want to work anywhere else. When you're raising a family, when you have food to put on the table and a roof over your head, finances do matter. And so for us to be able to show that, and some of you have called it a show of good faith, but it's just really a show of our appreciation for what you do for us every single day and what you do for our entire community. So thank all of you. And with that, I happily move approval of A3.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mayor Moreno, a second by Councilmember Borbo. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Warbo,
Yes.
Councilmember Daris,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Yes.
Mayor Moreno.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, now we are going to move on to updates from the city manager. And we will get to community forum in just a moment. For those of you waiting, I see you, Diane.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have some good news item, and I promise I'll be quick for those that do want to get to public comment. But I want to let you know summer is here. It may not feel like it or look like it with the cold weather and the overcast skies, but we are there, and we are moving forward with our summer concert series. So on June 17th at 6:30 p.m. will be our first concert. And most Saturday evenings through August, you can enjoy the Atascadero Lake Park as the city hosts concerts at the bandstand. And even better yet, the concerts are all free. So this Saturday, the JD Project will bring you original music as well as cover tunes that give you a blend of rock, blues, soul, and country. And this year we have a host of sponsors, leading off with our series sponsor, Central Coast Community Energy, And our presenting sponsors, including Coastal Community Physicians Network, Solar Ponics, Waste Management, Stove and Spa Center, Guest House Grill, Fatty's Pizza, Grigor and Alice Joan, and Kirk Consulting. Just another plug. Without these sponsors, these concerts couldn't happen. So please let them know that you appreciate it and you appreciate all they do for the community. That's a good thing. And bring your low back chair or blanket and bring your wallet for food purchases from Zen Dog and Paradise Shaved Ice. Make a day of it. Get to the park early, enjoy the zoo, a ride on the paddle boats or Surrey bikes at Mr. Putter's Boathouse, or a picnic, or just enjoy the concert. This Saturday they're starting. If you missed this Saturday, again, they're most Saturdays, check visit Atascadero.com and they have all the dates and who's playing when, and they're up there. The following weekend will be a Atascadero Lake Wine Festival weekend. So mark your calendar for Saturday, June 24th from 4 to 8 p.m. The weekend kicks off on Friday evening, June 23rd at 5 p.m. with the Atascadero Kiwanis and Mayor's Winemaker Dinner at the Pavilion on the Lake. Get your tickets soon because they will sell out. And on Saturday at 8 a.m., Chalk Mountain Golf Course will be the Atascadero Optimist Club Golf Tournament, which will lead up to the 26th annual Atascadero Lakeside Wine Festival from 4 to 8 p.m. at Atascadero Lake Park. The wine festival has over 100 wineries, craft beer, food and art vendors, and the event will feature live music, wine glass painting, axe throwing by A-Town Chop Shop, and third wheel tours where attendees can take a free ride around beautiful Atascadero Lake in a modern vintage sidecar. That is not all. Your ticket includes admission to the Charles Paddock Zoo to experience the many exotic animals, which is a whole lot of fun at that time of the evening. You start to see some of your more nocturnal and those animals that really like sunrise and sunset. They're moving around a lot more. And they will have more wineries, breweries, and Chris Phelan serenading you in the zoo's beautiful surrounding. And a portion of the proceeds will help benefit the Charles Paddock Zoo. So it's a fantastic opportunity to enjoy everything Atascadero Lake Park has to offer. And don't delay, get your tickets now. And for all of our event information, go to visitatascadero.com/events. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any council members with questions? I am seeing none. Thank you very much, City Manager. All right, we will move on to community forum. This is the portion of our meeting that is reserved for persons wishing to speak to the council on an item that is not an agendized topic of discussion and over which we have jurisdiction. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. We ask that you state your name for the record, and we will allot a total of 30 minutes for community forum. And if we do end up with a lot of people wanting to talk, I would ask that you be as succinct as possible so as many people can speak as want to speak. So appreciate that. And with that, come on forward, our first speaker.
Thank you very much. My name is Diane Greenaway, lived here in Atascadero for a long time, moved to Paso, so far away, in 2012. And I'm just so grateful to be here today to announce the upcoming July 4th Music Festival put together by Atascadero Colony Days. This is our 6th year. And thank you for taking the posters up there. We will have 3 bands. Activities will start, I think, actually before 4, but music will begin at 4. And we have a new group called Actual Grass. They're an authentic bluegrass group who love real bluegrass with genuine bluegrass hits and rock and harmonies. They feature Joel Demire from Slow Pickers on guitar and vocals. So they'll be at 4. About 5:30 will be a fun group called 4 on the Floor, recently formed of longtime Central Coast residents. They play a variety of hits, blues, rock, country, and jazz. Atascadero residents Wayne Stack, and Jerry Davis with Gary Lair from Templeton, and Bill Prince from Santa Barbara, Four on the Floor Dance Band will shift the July 4th celebration into high gear with plenty of musical fireworks. Our very own renowned Atascadero Community Band playing a rousing, good for the soul set of well-known and loved songs of patriotic American favorites will just set the right spirit heading into our Star-Spangled Night to send people off toward an evening of fireworks, whether you head to the coast or to Paso Robles. So all three of these bands are brand new. We've not had any of them in the last 6 years. So they're all new. Food will be available to purchase. Atascadero Colony Days is a fundraiser, is doing hot dogs and pulled pork sandwiches with all the fixings, plus chips and soda. The Atascadero Printery will be selling drinks of all kinds, including wine and beer. You got that right. Did I get that right, Brenda? Okay, thanks. And vendors include Paradise Shaved Ice, pizza with Paso Catering, and sweets, caramel bars, brownies, and gluten-free vegan cookies from Julie with Oslo Good. Plus, we have a stained glass vendor called Through the Eyes of Glass. And so I just want to thank this council, the city, for their support all through the past. We're so grateful to have such a great place as our Lake Park to just enjoy the 4th at. So thank you.
Thank you. Next. All right. So just so y'all know, because I think you're all kind of new to this, we don't clap after everybody speaks because it slows things down. But I appreciate the enthusiasm, wave the hands in the air, and it keeps us moving. Thank you. Hello. Yeah, if you could state your name for the record, that would.
My name is Livia Kellerman.
Hi, Vivian.
I am 100% for your proclamation today. It reinforces that they are just folks, good folks. We love science when it helps us as an individual, like heart surgery. But history has shown when it comes to the human spectrum, we tend to be closed-minded. Being left-handed was wrong and it was punished. Those who had epileptic seizures were thought to be possessed, and so on. We have improved. We were thought, we have improved. We are proud of the Special Olympics. The way to open minds is through education and compassion, especially with our youth. Your proclamation is especially important to the youth of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Yeah, wave them high. We can see you. That's all good. Perfect. Yay.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Thank you for passing this proclamation. I moved here in 1972. We moved here with my daughter when she was only 1 year old. She and my son are now raising 2 kids of their own each in this town. This is our home. That's 3 generations and over half a century. We want to make our town even better, a better place to live for everyone. And this proclamation is a step along that way. My younger brother was a gay man, died of AIDS decades ago. I've worked with, known many gay people in my life, and I've seen the anguish and the tears and the pain. And I've seen the progress we've made over the decades. But now there's a huge backlash, and our young people are suffering. Anxiety, depression, suicide attempts, thoughts of suicide are escalating right now. They need us. They need our help. They need our love and our nurturing. And I'm hoping that this proclamation will help make this town one of which that can take place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker. And if you are on the webinar and want to speak, please make sure to raise that hand at the bottom, the icon. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Richard Mullen from Atascadero. I'm here to talk about the streets, but one street in particular in Atascadero, not El Camino. Well, it does involve El Camino, but it's 41 and El Camino where they intersect. I don't remember as much confusion as having to make a right-hand turn onto El Camino from Highway 41. There are no lines there to direct people that the right-hand turn lane is freeway. So you have people in the right-hand lane turning to go down El Camino and people in the left-hand trying to get over into the right-hand turn to get on the freeway. Looking at the freeway overpass that they did a number of years ago, it looks like they built in some places to put signs that could direct people in which way to go. If you look at the Highway 41 sign that's on the freeway overpass, there's 4, I think it is, other bolts that are sitting there that have never been used. I'm assuming that those were for directional signs. Well, we didn't get that when they finalized that job there. We have no line markings to designate a right-hand turn lane or El Camino. So I think we need to press Caltrans to come back and finish their job. We've put a lot of money into that overpass. It looks very nice. It isn't without the direction, people, especially that don't live here in Atascadero and don't use this road that often, are often confused. So I'd like to see the city council or whoever is in charge of the traffic around here possibly press Caltrans to come and finish their job there. And maybe if they've got an extra $1 or something, they could clean up our pigeon poop entry into Atascadero. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Marty Brown. I live right down the road here. I'm here to thank you for proclaiming our city as supportive and caring about all its citizens. In diversity is strength. Everyone is valuable and deserving of love, respect, and protection to be free. Our city should unify against hate in all its forms. At some point in time, each of us will be in a minority position. My family has lived here since 1972, 51 years, and I have never been more proud of my city and North County. The anti-hate movement is alive and active here. Thank you for this proclamation. I join with my neighbors in support of proclaiming June as Pride Month in Atascadero. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Next speaker. Welcome.
Tom Waldman, resident for the last 20 years, moved up here from Coronado with my husband of 40 years, who I lost 2 years ago. And your city staff was so compassionate and loving that night. I thank you for the proclamation. I'm the one that did street side last year. And this Thursday will be at Outlaws. And I invite everyone to come. I wasn't planning on saying anything today. So again, Dave and I moved up here knowing that this would be our forever home because we love this town. There is magic in the earth here. And the people that live here and recognize that are special. And I just thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to speak this evening? We still have plenty of time. Anyone here in chambers? I'm not seeing anyone. I'm going to look to the webinar. If there's anyone, you can use that raise hand icon. And Luke, I don't think I'm seeing any phone, correct? All right. With that, we will go ahead and close community forum. And thank you to all of you who came out tonight and hearing your story on the radio the other day, as I said, I'm very touched by that. And thank you for just sharing that with everyone. And our hearts go out to you. I'm sorry for your loss. I do want to mention Mr. Mullen, maybe if Mr. DeBar or Mr. Betts could get with him, and certainly if that's something I can facilitate through SlowCog with Caltrans and getting some sign, because I think we all do think that's a little bit confusing over there. Even if you drive it on a semi-regular basis, you're like, okay, I think I'm supposed to be in this lane. So we'll facilitate getting in touch with you. And with that, we will move on to, see, I've got to flip pages here. Oops, wow. It's a pretty aggressive staple I have in my agenda, let me tell you. Wow. All right, we are moving on to our public hearings of assessment districts. And the first one is Apple Valley Assessment District. And I'll move that. Ask first if we have any ex parte on this. Any? Not seeing any ex parte. So our Administrative Services Director, Jerry Rangel.
Thank you very much. This evening, we do have 3 public hearings on 3 different neighborhoods, Apple Valley, De Anza, and Los Lunas. So with the permission of council, I'd like to go over some commonalities and then we'll go into each one separately. Here we go. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Okay. Okay. Council's longstanding policy is that development should pay for itself. And when these neighborhoods were developed, it was the developer's option to either do an assessment district or homeowners association. They did, all of them agree to do an assessment district in lieu of the homeowners association. It's not a general tax to the citizens of Atascadero. It's just for those properties in each of the districts. CPI is used in this case for the CPI for all urban consumers for San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward, from February to February. For the 3 areas we're discussing tonight, there are a total of 6 assessment districts. Because of the way that the law works, we have to, generally the neighborhoods have 2 for each, a landscape and lighting and a benefit assessment district that takes care of the roads. A public hearing must be done annually for these levies. The general fund does contribute a small amount for public benefit for trails and open space and parks and that sort of thing. So for the Apple Valley public hearing, staff evaluated the short and long-term costs for both of the districts and proposes that the levy stays the same as the prior year. So $550 per equivalent benefit unit or EBU for the street and storm drain, and $900 a year for the landscape and lighting district. And that concludes my report on Apple Valley.
Thank you for that. I will ask if there are any questions of the Administrative Services Director. Seeing none, I will open this up to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Looking in the webinar as well, you can raise your hand. Not seeing any. Luke, I'm not seeing anyone on the phone either. No. All right. I will go ahead and close public comment and bring it back for a motion.
I'll move approval of draft resolutions A, B, C, and D.
I'll second. We have a motion by Councilmember Borbo, a second by Councilmember Newsom. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borbo?
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom?
Yes.
Councilmember Daris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Funk?
Yes.
Mayor Moreno?
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to number 2, De Anza Estates Assessment Districts. Any ex parte? None. All right. Back to Director Rangel.
Thank you very much. Staff evaluated again for De Anza the short and long-term costs for both districts and proposes that the levies stay the same as the prior year. So $342.48 for the street and storm drain district in the senior housing section,
$681.50 for the single family resident area of the street and storm drain district, and $250 a year for the landscape and lighting district. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any members of the council wishing to ask a question? Seeing none, I'll open up to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Let's see, I see a raised hand from staff, maybe. Oh, me? I have no idea how I raised my own hand. I've raised my own hand in the webinar. That's a first after 3 years of doing Zoom. All right. Somebody can thank you, Luke, for putting my hand down. That was fun. All right. With that, we will close public comment and I will bring it back for a motion.
I will move approval of draft resolutions A, B, C, and D for this item.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Borbo, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Funk. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borbo,
Yes.
Councilmember Daris,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Yes.
Mayor Moreno.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And now on to the third and final Las Lomas Woodridge Assessment District. Any ex parte? None. Back over to you, Director.
Thank you once again. So this is for the Las Lomas neighborhood area. The levy for the landscape and lighting district was increased by CPI of 5.3% when compared to the prior year. And staff is proposing that the levy for the street and storm drain district remain flat since last year to this year. In 2017, we did have a neighborhood meeting to discuss the issue of funding for road maintenance. The majority of the homeowners that were in attendance in that meeting or those meetings were strongly opposed to contribute to or set aside funds for long-term maintenance in this district. The proposed street and storm drain district levy of $428 is sufficient only for the annual operating costs and periodic surface treatment slurry seals of the roads. Residents were informed that in approximately 20 years, the roads would require a more in-depth road maintenance project that would require significant funding. The residents were also informed that the homeowners would be responsible for those repairs, and the proposed levy that we're currently at the 428 would not be able to sufficient to be funding that project. Before the year 2033-34, the district will need to come together to figure out a way to rehabilitate the roads for a project that's estimated to be about $1 million in about 38-39 is when the project would be scheduled to be done. A notice was recently sent to each of the property owners in the district, again, sharing this information. We want to be as transparent as possible on this. Staff has concerns that the long-term maintenance of the streets district and wants to make sure that every effort that all the neighbors have all of the details needed to make informed decisions on this. Staff is also trying to compromise with the desires of the district to keep the near-term cost low. Staff is proposing to record a notice of assessment on each of these properties for more transparency and in case there's a sale so that any new buyers would be aware of the situation. And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director. I know this is something we talk about every year when it comes up. So I'm glad to see that we could take that extra step towards transparency because that is important for any future owners to know what they're up against that current owners have decided to kind of push down the road. So thank you for that. With that, any questions from council? Seeing none, I will open this up to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak on the Las Lomas assessment districts? Anyone in the webinar? I'm going to try to go over here without raising my own hand. All right, success. All right, I'm not seeing anyone. We'll close public comment and bring it back to council. I will ask for a motion.
I'll move approval of resolutions A, B, C, and D for this item.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Council Member Borbo, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Funk. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borbo,
Yes.
Councilmember Daris,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom, Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Yes.
Mayor Moreno,
Yes, ma'am.
motion passes.
Thank you. And still on deck with Director Rangel is our downtown parking and business improvement area confirmation of annual assessments fiscal year 23-24.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I think Deputy City Manager Banish is going to take this one.
Oh, all right. I will move on over. I will turn to my left.
There you go. Good evening, council. We have two assessments to review. The first for the DPBIA and the second for T-bed. So I'll have Luke put the presentation up real quick. As he does that, we're looking at the adoption of the assessment for the downtown parking and business improvement area. And we have the boundaries that will be shown in a minute here of the district as part of the assessment. This area is defined along El Camino Real between Morrow Road to the south, Rosario to the north, and the 101 freeway to the west, and to the east, slightly past Almeida and up to Capistrano Avenue. So there is a map there on page 2. So we'll get there real quick. Next slide. All right, well, it's hidden, Luke, I think is what happened. Anyway, the downtown business area, it was established in 1986 and requires that the advisory board provide a report to the city council annually for the expenditure of the funds derived from the assessment paid by the businesses in the downtown area. In order to ensure adoption of the assessment prior to the beginning of the fiscal year, the report and resolution of intention were presented on May 23rd. This also requires that the Chamber of Commerce that serves as the advisory body and the subcontractor to the city for the BIA to provide submission of the annual budget. So what you're looking at in front of you is the annual budget. There's an informal committee of downtown business owners that advise the Chamber of Commerce on expenditures and assists in the creation of the annual budget. So what this does is it includes beautification of the downtown, promotion of the downtown through events and different promotions, driving people to support their downtown businesses. The Chamber of Commerce has submitted this report, identifying the proposed improvements and activities that include the collection of the BIA funds requested for 2023 and 2024 and the cash balance from 2022 to 2023. The funds are used for all those things I mentioned earlier. I know that they are also working on some downtown lighting, so that'll be under the beautification that's listed there for the 2023, 2024 dollar amount that you see. And next slide would be the recommendation to adopt the draft resolution confirming the annual assessment for the downtown parking and business improvement area for 2023, 2024. This concludes the report.
Thank you, Ms. Banish. And I think I failed to ask if there was any ex parte before we started. No? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for that. Very exciting about the lighting. Because this isn't a huge amount of money they get every year. And so they really try to be as wise as they can with it and careful and do some events, but they've saved some up. And so to be able to do something like that could really be fun.
Yes,
all right.
It'll look nice too.
Any questions of staff? Mayor Pro Tem Funk.
Just one, is Taco Day for Traffic Way coming back? I have very fond memories of being a taco judge and being introduced to barbacoa tacos from La Parrilla.
Those are good.
As a judge.
That is percolating out there as far as talk about that, maybe aligning it with the First Fridays type of thing, maybe August 4th even. So more to come on that, but it definitely is something the downtown businesses would like to see come back.
Very fun. Thanks.
I like how you're connecting things with that First Friday. That's
Yes.
nice. If you get people in the habit of coming down First Friday and these events, that can really, that's gaining momentum. So thank you
Yes.
for that.
Thank you.
All right. I think we have exhausted council questions. I will look to any member of the public wishing to speak. I swear, I'm looking at the two of you back there. You look darling together. And I'm like, are they on date night coming to the council or?
So Jeff Oslin, once again, resident of this wonderful city. In an effort of consistency, my question poses to our community development director. Is this also in line with the new entertainment zone? Because I think we should make sure we are crossing T's and dotting I's. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this topic? If anyone in the webinar wishes to speak, you can raise your hand. I'm not seeing any, so go ahead and close public comment and bring it back. And if someone would like to answer the question, you're asking the entertainment zone if that has, because I think the way we assess in terms of the downtown bid is specifically the downtown, and that's the doubling of they agree to assess themselves double the fee of their typical business fee to put into this, and that is different than the entertainment zone.
Yes,
Is
correct.
correct?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So their T's are crossed and I's are dotted. They're just two different things, but we know what the map on that is. All right. With that, I will look for a motion.
I'll move we adopt the draft resolution confirming the annual assessment for the downtown parking and business improvement area.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Borbo, a second by Councilmember Daris. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borbo,
Yes.
Councilmember Daris,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Yes.
Mayor Moreno.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
And Mayor, regarding your comment regarding the audience members, many years ago, I asked Councilmember Sturdivant how he got interested in city's business. And he said he and his wife came here as a date night to see what a city council meeting was like. And he ended up serving 2 terms on the council.
And he served honorably. He was a good council member. All right. So now we're on to public hearing number 5, the Atascadero Tourism Business Improvement District confirmation of annual assessment for the fiscal year 23-24. Again, any ex parte? Seeing none. And I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Banish again.
Thank you. So the city of Atascadero, we'll go to the next slide. Thanks, Luke. City of Atascadero established the Atascadero Tourism Business Improvement District, referred to as APBID, to levy annual assessments under the Parking and Business Improvement Area Law of 1989 by adopting Atascadero Municipal Code Chapter 16 in April 2013. The activities to be funded by the assessment on lodging businesses within the APBID are designed as promotions and marketing programs that designated as promotions and marketing programs designed to promote the city as a tourism destination. It is required that the advisory board provide a specific report to city council annually for the expenditure of funds derived from the assessment and are paid by lodging businesses within the city. These levies are adopted annually and were provided in the annual report presented May 23 of 2023. The recommendation is to adopt the draft resolution confirming the annual assessment for the APBID for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. And that concludes my report. Sorry about that.
I was waiting for the question slide.
Yeah, sorry.
Which is totally fine that you don't have one. This is something that we've had going now just 10 years now. We're coming up on, and it really has made such a difference. We were the last city in the county to do a T-bid, and to see the events and the momentum and the things that have happened within our community because of that T-bid. And we thank the T-bid board. I know that they put a lot of work into that, and we're appreciative of that because that helps our entire community. With that, I will look to council members to see if there are questions. Mayor Pro Tem Funk.
Yeah. Can you confirm the record that the assessments apply not only to hotels and motels, but also to short-term rentals like Airbnbs and Verbos?
Correct. Yes, sure. Lodging owners, all of them.
Thank you. And I presume we have a way of watching to see who's putting their properties up that way in case they haven't checked in.
Absolutely. We're on it with code enforcement too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, I'll open up to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item, you can please come forward or raise your hand on the webinar. I am not seeing any. So we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring that back to council for a motion.
Move council adopt the draft resolution confirming the annual assessment for the AT bid.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Borbo, a second by Councilmember Daris. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borbo,
Yes.
Councilmember Daris,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Yes.
Mayor Moreno.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes.
All right. Now for the really exciting item this evening. Yes, this is how things get accomplished, right? This is where it happens. So on to our one management report this evening, which is our 2023-2025 operating budget. A lot of work citywide has gone into this, and especially with our administrative services, our finance department, and our director here, Rangel. So thank you, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I am so pleased to present this tonight. Like you said, there has been a lot of teamwork and hard work that went into this. And so I appreciate being able to present this and go over all of the details tonight. Public engagement, first of all, is a huge part of the budget process. It's very important, and it's continuous, ongoing dialogue between the city council, city staff, and the community, of course. The city's budget process is purposely structured to receive public input on where the funds are spent. Members of the public can speak, like tonight at the city council meetings. They can reach out to you all council members outside of the meeting setting and talk with city staff. For the prior budget cycle, a series of 20 public meetings were held during the budget process to discuss funding, but particularly including those funding for Measure D20. The current budget cycle builds on all of that hard work developed last cycle. Council again held the goal setting session in February of this year to confirm or adjust the goals from the prior cycle. From there, city department head team worked to develop an action plan to accomplish all of the goals that the council and the community had set. It was reviewed by council in April and is included in the staff report and in the budget document here for consideration of adoption tonight. The city's finance committee met 6 different times at publicly held meetings in April of May and this year to review and approve each section of the budget, including supplemental budget requests and items that have been incorporated into the budget document. And on that note, I'd like to thank our finance committee and our members of the council that we are represented on the committee, Councilmember Newsom, Councilmember Barbeau, City Treasurer Seebach, our city manager Rickard, of course, and all of the community and the staff that came to all of those meetings to give their input on all of this 400 plus beautiful pages of document. We, of course, have 3 priorities: economic and community vibrancy, fiscal and infrastructure efficiency and sustainability, and ensuring public safety and providing exceptional city services. And this is what our action plan is based on, and that's what the budget is based on. There are a number of important community issues that were considered throughout the development of this budget. This slide lists many of those: sales tax measure D20, of course, public safety, staff retention and attraction, like we talked about on item A3 today, investments in infrastructure, broadband, and a whole lot more. The general fund, the city's primary operating fund, will be the main focus of tonight's discussion. Sales tax measure F14 funds are a part of the general fund, but in order to be as transparent as possible for those, they are separated out in the budget for separate purposes. And all of the discussions tonight regarding the general fund will be excluding those measure F14 funds. Sales tax measure D20 funds are, however, included in all of the general fund discussion tonight. This pie chart represents general fund revenue. The addition of the sales tax measure D20 increased that slice of the pie that is sourced from sales tax. And as a result, property tax revenue is now about 36% of total general fund revenue. Property tax revenues are based on underlying property values, and these revenues are the most stable of the various revenue sources. Current year security property taxes are those taxes based on assessed valuation of the property as of January 1st of each year, and usually represent about 65 to 75% of the city's total property tax revenue. Current secured are projected to increase about 4.5% in each of the next 2 years. Overall, property tax revenues are projected at 12.6 million in 23-24 and 13.1 million in 24-25. Sales tax is inherently volatile revenue source and significantly influenced by the state of local and national economies. The state's Bradley Burns base sales tax rate is 7.25, and then with Atascadero's 2 add-on sales tax rates, 1/2 cent for F14 and 1 cent for D20, our sales tax rate here in town is 8.75. Including Measure D20 revenue, sales tax revenue is projected to be about 33% of general fund revenues in total. The city saw gradual sales tax growth until the Great Recession, but more recently there have been some significant changes, including Measure D20 and AB 147. Assembly Bill 147, of course, expanded the collection of sales and use tax to more online purchases. As a result, we've seen an increase in the state and local pool revenue. Staff estimates that the sales tax revenue will be relatively flat from this year to next year, with a slight 2% uptick in the 24-25. Some other general fund revenues include transient occupancy tax that we just kind of discussed, franchise fees, building permit activity, and service fees. The city had recently seen some significant increases in TOT revenue with the council's emphasis on promotion and economic growth. However, TOT revenue was negatively affected by the travel restrictions and the stay-at-home orders related to COVID-19. Revenues have trended back up and broke the $2 million mark for the first time in 21-22. Great success. DOT revenue is projected to be essentially flat next year and about a 2% increase for 24-25. Franchise fees are charged on things like cable, electric, garbage, natural gas, wastewater, those types. They are based on the revenues collected by each of the entities. And they are expected to be about 1.45 million per year and expected to gradually grow over the coming years, primarily due to increases in the rates for electric, natural gas, and wastewater. Building permit activity is expected to remain steady throughout the budget cycle and beyond, with a lot of large projects in various states of development. Service fee revenues encompass many of the different reimbursements for costs for city-provided services. These are projected to be right around 1.8 million in each of the 2 years. Employee services are the backbone of the community. The city is a service organization, so the largest part of general fund expenditures is dedicated to employee services. 61% of the average general fund expenditures for 23-25 will go toward the cost of employees, and this is very typical for governments. The budget includes the 3% cost of living increases that we had talked about earlier this evening. The budget includes some needed staff additions. This includes a support services supervisor and police department, the reclassification of 2 officers to corporal positions, also in police department, an additional public safety dispatcher starting in the 2nd year of the budget, additional firefighter, a engineering position in public works, a recreation coordinator that will be shared between the city manager's office, the pavilion, and recreation. That will help with events as well. A full-time central receptionist and another part-time maintenance worker at the zoo. Operations costs are expenditures related to the regular and ongoing operations of the departments, including things like supplies and tools and utilities, insurance, that sort of thing. The operations target for 23-24 budget was a 4% increase, and for 24-25, it was a 2% increase. Supplemental budget requests were made by departments for specific items that could not otherwise be accommodated in the existing budgets. Some of those requests are for items that are necessary obligations that the city must fund. Other requests are for items that might either enhance efficiencies, reduce costs, or may be effective in some other way. Some of the operating budget increases over the initial budget target include costs such as higher annual contributions for replacements, utilities, employee wellness, economic development, investments in employee efficiencies, professional development and succession planning, software, operating supplies, PPE, all kinds of things. The general fund operation expense is projected to be about 9.7 million in 23-24 and 9.9 million in 24-25. Special and capital projects are costs that are either atypical or not part of the city's regular operations. These are more like one-time expenditures that are evaluated each budget cycle and funded to the extent possible. They vary from year to year. Some of these items included funding for equipment, technology upgrades, and infrastructure repairs and upgrades, among others. Also included in the budget is funding for the restaurant loan program that was authorized by council recently, and zoo exhibit fundraising match. This cycle, special and capital projects are budgeted at 6.9 million in 23-24 and 3 million in 24-25. Since 1998, the city has worked diligently to put aside reserves for the replacement of buildings, equipment, vehicles, and technology. The city continues to build up some of these reserve funds and has been successful at authorizing one-time amounts into these funds whenever possible. The budget includes some of these one-time transfers in 22-23, including funding of 1 million from the general fund to the building maintenance and replacement fund for to build up that fund, 3.5 million specifically for the replacement of the public safety center / fire station 1, and another 2 million from the general fund to the vehicle and equipment replacement fund that reflect increases in the costs of all of our rolling fleet. The budget also includes one-time and ongoing transfers for 23-24 and 24-25. Annual replacements are fully funded for technology and vehicles. Increases to the amounts of both the technology and the vehicles are included in this budget cycle as well to more accurately capture the current replacement costs and the number of these tools and vehicles that are actually being used by staff. Also included in the budget are annual and ongoing replacement amounts of 250,000 per year for the building replacement and 225,000 per year for equipment replacement. This is pretty small to read. It is on page A29 of the budget document, but I do want to impress, this is a really important concept for us. So targeted net income was really a key factor in the development of the budget, as current and future fiscal sustainability is a key priority. To be fiscally responsible, the budget target is a zero net income. Zero net income assumes that the city is not spending an ongoing deficit situation, nor is it building up unreasonably high fund balance. There are some adjustments needed for this budget cycle to get the balanced budget target of zero net income. For example, the city received some one-time funding through the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. These one-time funds were received in 2 payments, one in fiscal year 21-22 and the other one in 22-23, and are now included in the general fund. Spending those funds would require use of reserves since these ARPA funds are being held with those reserves. Additionally, encumbrances and approved capital projects included in fiscal year 22-23 budget that won't be spent in this year are carried forward into the next fiscal year. Another adjustment is expenses for the general plan update. Council has approved use of general fund reserves to pay the costs of the general plan update. While the 7-year projection shows a net income of -4 million in 23-24 and -800,000 in 24-25, these are in line with the target net income as shown on the adjustment worksheet here and on page A29 of the budget document. This again is just way too small to read on the screen, but it is page B11 of your budget. And I just wanted to point this out. This is a 7-year projection and reflects available fund balance of the general fund. This projection allows us to look ahead and make sure that we have a solid and sustainable plan now and for the future. It's also important to continually monitor the level of reserves to ensure that there are funds available for the future. Page B11 does include Measure D20, but does not include Measure F14 activity. This reserve graph shows the available general fund reserve as a percentage of general fund expenditures. The council's general policy on reserves is to keep the percentage at or above 20%. This is the line here on the graph. The 7-year projection estimates that we will not drop below 27.2% during the next 7 years. The current projections are compliant with council reserve policy. The spike in the reserves that you see in this graph is largely related to some of those one-time items previously discussed. These figures do not include F14 again. As always, the city will continue to monitor this and revise it in order to ensure that adequate reserves remain in place. Pages G11 through G14 of your budget is a listing of the capital projects proposed in this 2-year budget cycle. Over 58 million in projects are included, with a downtown infrastructure enhancement plan, road projects, bridge replacements, and wastewater projects among the largest. There are also a number of other projects that are included in this cycle, such as the beginning of the Public Safety Center. Sales tax measure F14 funds are included separately as discussed for clarity and transparency. A complete list of roads that are scheduled for some level of repair are listed in the budget document beginning on page F2. Revenues are expected to be about 6.7 million over the budget cycle, and expenses are projected at 9.1 million. The expenses are more than the revenues due to the fact that there are some timing differences and there were some savings on prior projects, and those funds are being used in this cycle. Through the use of Measure F14 funds, staff has been able to use critical point management methodology to improve the condition of the city's roads. This has been successful, and the city has seen an increase in the pavement condition index from 47 to 50. Sales tax measure F14 expires March 31st, 2027. And while this budget only covers the 2-year period through 2025, the budget also includes a 5-year capital improvement plan that relies on ongoing measure F14 revenue. Absent these revenues, the projects scheduled in the outer years of the 5-year capital improvement plan will need to be either canceled or adjusted. Staff is also recommending that the council adopt an amendment to the current 22-23 budget. The adjustments are primarily transfers between funds. So the ARPA-related funds, transfers to internal service, transfers for the downtown infrastructure enhancement project. There are a few of the smaller dollar amounts included in this as well for building repairs and other expenses that were discussed throughout the budget process. The fiscal strategy has really provided the city with a strong framework from which to operate. The strategy has allowed the city to maintain stable service levels, even in the face of twists and turns in the economy. Sales tax measure D20 is providing vital city services that further the 3 key priorities. The budget is effective and smart and makes the best use of limited resources. General fund reserves remain sufficient even into the long term. This budget provides the organization with the direction and tools necessary to pursue key priorities and help the city continue to thrive. I wouldn't be able to present this plan without the terrific cooperative efforts of the council, the finance committee, the community, and the city's dedicated and hardworking staff. And of course, the leadership of City Manager Rickard. I appreciate all the hard work everybody put in, and I would also like to thank the members of the community for sharing their time and input. We all work great together as a community, and we are successful as a result. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director. Very solid summary that explains, as well as can be explained, why we have these ups and downs in net income, net loss. And if you are someone who typically looks at financial statements, you look and say, what is going on over there at the city? And so if you look, say, in the prior fiscal year, we had a net income of over $8.2 million. Well, let's just take one small example. $3 million that we were very fortunate to receive due to the effort of the state of California. Well, in a normal, business environment, if you're not going to use that money right away, the matching principle, revenues and expenses, you would take that 3 million and it would go onto your balance sheet as a deferred revenue. And then you would recognize that when you go to spend it in a future year. It's not the way fund accounting works for government. And so you have to bring in those funds and show them as that that revenue that comes in. And then in future years, when you spend it, you've got it sitting here, as the director said, in reserves, but now we're looking like we have a loss. And so I think the director did a nice job of showing how, a net loss isn't a loss per se. It's revenue that was previously received. It is now being used. It's just the way government fund accounting works. So thank you for that. And thank you to your entire team. This is a big effort. And I also want to thank our finance committee. And I want to thank every single member of our council. When I came on to council, I served on the finance committee for 3 terms, if you will, 3 two-year terms. And Councilmember Borbo and I served together. And then once I became mayor, and as we got new council members, I asked each of them in one cycle to serve. So Mayor Pro Tem Funk has served, Councilmember Daras, and now Councilmember Newsom. And I really appreciate it because it's a lot of work to add those 6 meetings in that short period, along with everything else you do. But I think it's really important for all of us to really understand this budget as best we can as we're making these decisions that affect our lives together. So thank you to my colleagues. With that, we have really gone through this with a fine tooth comb. And so we don't have tons of questions, but we might ask a few just to, clarify some things and also to point out things that we think maybe need to be highlighted. And so with that, I will turn to my council members and ask if we have any questions. Councilmember Daras, we'll start with you.
Not a question, but just a comment. Second page of this ginormous document is obviously well deserved by the staff and everybody that worked on this thing. There is so much information in here, so detailed, so well put together. And this probably doesn't do it justice, but thank you so much for all your hard work.
Why don't you tell us what it is?
Oh, I'm sorry. You got to get the book first. The Operating Budget Excellence Award from the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers. So, I mean, I'm sure that's a huge feather in your hat. And we're lucky to have staff that has this capability to put a document like this together. The detail is just unbelievable. And thank you so much.
Councilmember Borbo, any questions?
Well, no, as you noted, we had 6 finance committee meetings. And so I asked a hell of a lot of questions.
Excellent.
Save the time. I will have a brief comment before we vote.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, I looked at you and Heather at the same time. Mayor Pro Tem Funk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do have a few things just so we can clarify. And I want to first add my voice to the chorus, thanking you, Jerry, and the staff, all of the staff, for this excellent document. And for those who are, daunted by the heft of this budget, but are interested in city finances, check out the first about 50 pages of the document and read through the narrative, because it's a really good way of understanding the ebbs and flows of finances in the city through the various complexities in fund accounting, and what we're doing with this money to serve the community, and how the community's investment in this city through Measure D20 and also F14, but especially in this document, you see Measure D20 has transformed the ability of the city to deliver for the community. And I want to thank you for making that clear and thank the public for making that possible. A few things, if you could go back to your staff addition slides. Sorry, it's back there somewhere. There we go. Just to clarify, since we're now in our second round of looking at having D20 revenues to consider, I want to clarify that these additional support services and corporal positions and dispatcher positions in police and firefighter positions, that these are in addition to the substantial increase in our public safety staffing, in particular in the police department, that we approved in the last budget cycle.
Yes, that is correct. We did have 5 police officers, a public safety dispatcher, fire battalion chief, and a website social media technician added last cycle, and these are in addition to those positions. Correct.
Great, thank you. So for folks who are wondering, are we really continuing to focus that money on public safety? You betcha. Could you roll to the long-term funding slide that you did? Yeah, okay. So that 3.5 million that we're setting aside for the Public Safety Center to replace Fire Station 1, is it fair to think of that as just that we're making a down payment on what we're going to do there?
I think that's a fair way to think of it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Very responsible of us. And then I'll skip that question. Let me go through my little stickies here. Got a couple of them taken care of. There's on A42 in the budget, there's an annual spending limit thing that the city is governed by laws that limit the growth in spending. And I see that the new limit is something like 51 million. Is it fair to say that we're many, many millions below that point?
Yes, that is fair to say. Just on page A41, right prior to that, I think, is it, maybe it's not, but our appropriations subject to limitations are about 28 million. So significantly less than the limit. You are correct.
Right. And is it also fair to say that we continue to have general administrative expenses in the city that are something like 10%, in the bottom 10% of all the cities in the state?
I would guess so. I haven't measured that recently, but I would think that that is probably about right.
Fair enough. Okay. And a couple of other things are timing issues. Let me check the last. So I stick with you. Oh, yes. On B22, the last item on that page is traffic records software. I'm assuming that that's something we're doing with records around traffic in either the police department or the public safety, public service department, public works, not traffic way records.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, good. Not spending any extra fun here. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Mason.
Thank you. I enjoyed working with the staff, and we had a very devoted participant from the public. So I was surprised to not see her today. She was really diligent about showing up and really taking the time to understand the budget. My 4-year-old attended 3 of those 6 meetings. Very disappointed we don't go to the city every week to see you, both of you, Laura. Actually, it was a fun process, especially when Charles wasn't there. I got to really ask a lot of questions with the treasurer's Just teasing. It was very insightful. You know, you get to finally see where you're spending the money. You get to see where it's needed the most. And then today, I won't say that I shed a tear when everybody said thank you. But the budget side is always the hardest. I always said when I took office, the first thing I was going to do was try to figure out how we could afford more things or look at budget numbers. And that didn't happen because we were very diligent about how we spent. So having the D20 in there was fundamental. And to sit here after, 4 years and see what we have accomplished because of our staff, I just want to say thank you.
Yes, Councilman Overbaugh.
So this isn't really a question, but others are making comments. I had two comments I wanted to make. One is, I ask a lot of questions, and it's always impressive how with a document this thick, pretty much any question you ask, Jerry or Rochelle have an answer. And not one they're making up. They pretty much know they can answer pretty much any question about any aspect of this. And as we went through the process, the relevant, department representatives were there as we went through each department. And if it was something more technical, they were there, they knew the answer. And so for me, it's just, we know this, but for the public to know, the staff here really knows what the hell they're doing. They really do watch every dollar. They don't just throw it out of, there's a bunch of money here and a bunch of money there and try to let it go at that. They are very ready, willing, and able to answer any question thoroughly and accurately. And it's impressive to me because, I used to spend some time in this field myself, and they're really on top of it. And the other thing I was going to mention is just this slide here. And again, with the voters approving D20, it not only enabled us to do the things that Mayor Pro Tem Funk noted on the other slide in terms of some additional staffing, it enables us to maintain a better financial foundation for the city by setting aside money for physical things that are needed, because so many cities will neglect that. And then things deteriorate and they have no recourse or no source of funds to take care of it. So this is also like this, the things on this slide to me represent good management, good long-term management. And there was one not on here, but we set aside some money to take advantage and take care of something relative to the turn lane on Del Rio. Something where we could be proactive in a way we simply couldn't before. So again, thank you to the voters for passing D20. It's really making a big difference in how well we can run this city. And again, thanks to staff for doing a great job on this. So thank you.
Yeah, I don't think any of us could have anticipated what a significantly positive impact that would have. I think when Rochelle and I first started talking about the idea, it was like a twinkle in our eye that, gosh, could this possibly happen? And I don't think we ever saw how well we could be doing the things that we could be funding for our community in terms of infrastructure and our human capacity. And it's made an incredible difference. So yes, thank you. So I know we're all making comments before we go out to public comment, but we just kind of can't help it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up to public comment. If there is anyone wishing to speak on this item, please feel free to come forward here in chambers, or if you are on the webinar. And I don't think I see Treasurer Seebach in here. Did he come this evening?
Unfortunately, he was unable to make it this evening.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Usually he's always here for these things, and we always appreciate his perspective. But if we know Treasurer Seebach well, and I think we do, he would have high praise for the staff and the solid budget that you've put together. So I think we can speak on his behalf. I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak, so I will close public comment and bring it back for a motion.
Mayor, I was curious though, item number 5 and the recommendations, is a little separate piece in the staff packet that Jerry, finance director, did not address. Is that something city manager wanted to address? We're all familiar with it.
I think it's something that we already did, and there were a few
okay.
minor changes based on what we had talked about and agreed on at our last council meeting. Is there something you wanted to say specifically?
No, I just exactly what you said, Mayor. We've talked about it in April. Obviously, if there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer.
the changes are noted, so I will go ahead and make the motion that we adopt recommendations 1 through 5 to complete our budget process.
I'll second it.
All right, Finance Committee, excellent. Councilmember Borbo, second by Councilmember Newsom. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borbo,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Daris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Funk,
Yes.
Mayor Moreno.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we are on to council announcements and committee reports. So I will go from my right to my left and Councilmember Newsom.
I don't have anything to report. I think I got a easy schedule this week. I got a birthday though.
Woo. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, we have a meeting of the Homeless Services Oversight Council. This will be the executive committee coming up on the 21st of this month. And I also want to report that I participated in a statewide press conference that was hosted by the California State Association of Counties in advocating for our county and other counties statewide to get funding and changes on homelessness through the accountability budget trailer bill language that CSAC has proposed. It's basically looking for less red tape and clear accountability so that the funding and accountability are aligned and sustainable funding, which will really help us in delivering on the goals that we've all discussed. So thank you.
Councilmember Borbo.
Yes, tomorrow, the Integrated Waste Management Authority Board will meet and will adopt its budget for the next fiscal year. But the most important piece of that, and I've mentioned this possibility before, will be a reduction. Technically, it's a temporary reduction, but a reduction in the IWMA fee that's passed on to residents from 5.4% to 4.4%. So it's always a pleasure to, when an agency can reduce its fees that are charged to to residents. So, and I think it's also a tribute to a good management team we have in place at the IWMA now. And so I'm very pleased to say that, barring any major unforeseen circumstance, will be adopted tomorrow. Thank you.
Councilmember Daris.
Last week, I think it was last week, APCD met. Our biggest item was we had to fill a couple of seats, some at-large positions, which I think there's still one unfilled, so we'll probably go through that again. And this Thursday, Capsule meets, so we're meeting with them. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. And this Friday, I will have the countywide mayor's meeting down in Arroyo Grande. And last week was SLOCOG. Few items of note. First of all, we talked again about supplemental funding, which is essentially a sales tax measure. My concern, as I've stated at this meeting and I've stated at SLOCOG all along, is that if SLOCOG were to be going out in 2024, they're looking at potentially March or November, that either way there would be a significant negative impact on the city's ability to renew F-14. And I kind of have the philosophy that you got to put on your own oxygen mask first. And so we need to take care of Atascadero and make sure that we can keep those roads. Because as you saw, our PCI pavement condition index is actually going up. And without F-14, it would be significantly lower than it was 10 years ago. So that's greatly concerning to me. Let's see. We also talked about the housing infrastructure plan, which is going to be coming back to us here on the 27th. Everything coming forward in the HIP is recommended or ideas. It is suggestions. There's nothing coming forward that says, any city has to do this policy or such. I am a little concerned when I hear some members of SLOCOG thinking that there needs to be greater accountability or push or pressure or some mechanism to maybe force jurisdictions to take action. I take a little more positive view. I think that our city manager, along with the CAO, our city managers, I should say, countywide, along with the CAO, have been working very cooperatively. In each city, we're looking at our housing elements and doing what we can that fits and is best for our community. And I take a little more positive view, and I think we're moving it forward in a way that works well without an added layer of governmental oversight. Lastly, there was some good news, $2 million that we applied for in earmarks related to our downtown infrastructure enhancement was selected to move on. So it's not final yet, but we have a move on to the next level. And also good news is that congressional community project funds survived the debt ceiling debate. So nothing affected our county. And with that, I will ask if there are any individual determinations.
Before we actually move into determinations, could I ask a question of Councilmember Bourbeau with regarding to the IWMA? And that's if you could let us know where things stand on the effort, on the request of the county to come back into the fold with IWMA.
Yes, the obviously the county, I think it was his March 21st meeting, the Board of Supervisors directed their staff to explore the possibility of rejoining the IWMA. At its, I think, April board meeting, the IWMA board said we're open to that, and let's have IWMA staff talk with county staff about that and what that would entail. They've been doing that, and tomorrow we will formalize the appointment of an ad hoc committee that would meet with county, presumably one or two supervisors, to go over what the staff has discussed and talk about the terms, if you will. I passed on, brought it here to this council and asked for input, and we discussed at the IWMA board, in particular, the level of representation that the county would have if it rejoined, and that would be a major point of discussion when this ad hoc committee, which I will be on, when it meets with the Board of Supervisors. So in other words, the staffs have been meeting, and so in the near future, I suspect that electeds will be meeting, and then you'll hear something back on it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and good question for all of us to have that update. Any individual determinations? Yes, City Manager.
I can't help myself as an accountant after 26 years here with the city, former finance director, auditor for many jurisdictions long before that. I just want to add my appreciation, my thanks for Jerry and her team. I can't overstate how much hard work goes into this, how many hours all of you put in, Dawn, Cindy, Jerry, and yet they were all here tonight. To Lori, Helona, the whole team was here. And the department head team audited a bunch of cities where budget meetings were a little bit like a shark tank, with everybody trying to grab as much as theirs for each department and pitting police department against fire department and such. This team consistently works together at the direction of the city council, trying to figure out the best way to deliver on your priorities. And they do an amazing job year after year. So thank you, Jerry. Thank you, team. It's just an amazing process, an amazing team. So thanks.
Well, and thank you, because your background, I'm sure every single department has, especially Jerry, is very thankful to have your expertise and the way that you lead the whole thing. I mean, Jerry's certainly the leader in charge of it, but the I don't want to call it oversight, the input, the presence that you have to help facilitate that is incredible. And I'm so glad that your retirement coincided with just a few weeks after the budget finished.
Yes.
So we're very grateful for that, because you bring a lot to that, and we appreciate you very much. So thank you. And as Jessica said, best place to work, put it on all those recruitment posters. And with that, I just want to say it was nice to see Mr. Pierrick tonight. I haven't seen you outside of a Zoom screen in a while, so good to see you in person.
It's good to be seen.
All right. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting and see you all back in 2 weeks. Good night.